Mr. President, I rise today still in shock, still in mourning over the events of October 1st, when 58 people, some of them Nevadans, many of them visitors to our state, were brutally gunned down by a madman on the Las Vegas Strip. In addition to those horrible deaths, almost 500 people were injured. Many of them faced long roads to physical recovery, and even longer and more painful road to emotional recovery. I know I speak for all of my Senate colleagues in praying for them, wishing them the quickest recovery possible. This madman's actions devastated our city, but I rise today to tell you that that sense of devastation is being replaced by a renewed sense of community, a renewed sense of family, of unity, of faith, and a renewed sense of strength. I've had the honor of experiencing it firsthand in the eyes and the voices of those who survived and those who chose to stay in harm's way to help each other when they could have fled to safety. I've seen and heard this renewed sense of community, strength in the faces of our first responders, none of whom have ever encountered anything as horrific as the carnage of October 1st, but who plunged into danger to save lives. Because that's what they do. I had the privilege of meeting a Las Vegas police officer, Sergeant Jonathan Riddle, who was stationed a block from the shooting scene doing traffic work. When he first heard the popping noises, like most of the concert goers, he thought it was fireworks. But the second volley told him otherwise, and his training kicked in. Grabbed his rifle, and he sprinted towards the chaos. Now keep in mind, this police officer knew, through his training, that heavy caliber bullets were being fired and that his protective vest would not stop them. He also knew that his rifle was useless because the shots were coming from the Mandalay Bay and he couldn't shoot at the hotel in fear of hitting an innocent bystander. So he was, for all intents and purposes, defenseless. He knew it, but he ran anyway. He ran towards the violence. He ran towards it with one purpose: to help any way that he could. It's almost not fair to single him out because dozens of Metro police officers did the same thing. Firefighters, paramedics, ambulance drivers also. It was not just professional first responders who emerged as true heroes on October 1st. Taylor Winston, a Marine, was just trying to enjoy the concert that night. But when the bullets started raining down, he was driven by his training, his instincts, his compassion for his fellow human beings. He helped several people over a fence where they took cover, but he realized the danger wasn't over. Looking around, he spotted a pickup truck and with a long bed. He borrowed the truck. I use the term borrowed loosely. Loaded the back of it with injured people and rushed them to the hospital. But he wasn't done. He made a return trip, loaded the pickup again with wounded individuals, and got them to the hospital. Jack Beaton's last act on earth was one of sacrifice and heroism. He draped himself over his wife, protecting her from the deadly bullets. He told her he loved her, then was hit and died in her arms. Jonathan Smith shouted warnings when he realized what was happening. But when some people were too stunned to move towards safety, Jonathan moved towards them, getting them out of the line of fire. That's when Jonathan himself was hit. He survived, but will likely always have a bullet lodged in his neck. It's a painful reminder of his heroics, but I hope it'll also remind him of the people that he saved. And John, a cab driver, accelerated towards the screams and the chaos, shouted for a frightened group of girls to jump in his cab, and he drove them to safety. Then John turned around, drove back to the shooting scene, transported another group to safety. In all, John possibly saved 11 lives. There was a woman at the concert, a respiratory therapist, who had her cell phone shattered by a bullet, while the cell phone was still in her hand. Shards of hard plastic tore through her hand, embedded in her skin. But what did she do? Pulled the shards out of her hand, bandaged herself up, rushed to the hospital where she worked to try to help other people more badly injured. At our local hospitals, doctors and nurses worked miracles around the clock. When operating rooms were not available, they treated the wounded in hallways. Surrounded by shouting, crying, chaos, blood, they saved one life after another after another. Their skill, their composure, their dedication to saving lives was stronger that night than the evil intentions of a madman with a rifle. I was walking the hallway of one of our hospitals with the hospital CEO when a woman rushed towards him, grabbed him by the arm, through tears and sobbed, thanked him for the work his staff had done. Her niece had been wounded, but she was heading home. She said she could never thank the hospital staff enough. In the aftermath, the community banded together to provide every resource possible to the victims and their families. The Las Vegas Convention Center South Hall was dedicated to family reunification and support services. Airlines answered the call to provide free flights to the families of victims. Hotels and casinos across Las Vegas offered free rooms. The American Red Cross partnered with the Mirage to host a blood drive. Millions of dollars have been raised by local businesses and people across the country to support the victims. The employees of Mandalay Bay and other MGM resort properties were understandably stricken and horrified by the shooting that they too asked how they could help. And instead of being frozen by their shock and grief, they mobilized, donating blood, offering help to the families of the victims, organizing memorials, and otherwise coming together as a team motivated by compassion and selflessness, and provided comfort and solace. True leaders have emerged in the wake of this tragedy. My friend, Sheriff Joe Lombardo, head of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, has been steadfast in this crisis. He will always be remembered as a rock-solid presence when our city most needed one. Let me say this for the world to hear: our great city will not cower in fear because of this horrible act. We will mourn, we will heal, we will comfort each other, we will pray. But make no mistakes about it, Las Vegas is open for business. Las Vegas will not simply go on, but we will thrive. So come to Las Vegas and maybe come away with a greater appreciation of what our city, our people are all about. From the blood and the horror, the terror, the carnage of October 1st, a new Las Vegas has risen. We've never shied away from our image as a city of entertainment. Our hospitality defines us, but the world has now seen a side much more profound, something we have always seen, and that is a home, a family, a community of people who will stand by each other during the darkest moments. A community of people bound by faith, who will stand in the face of danger to protect a neighbor, a friend, a family member, or someone they've never met. Everyone around the world has heard of Las Vegas. The very name conjures images almost immediately. Its skylines cannot be mistaken for any other. Yet prior to October 1st, almost no one knew the true Las Vegas, the Las Vegas that we are seeing now. A city that responds to cowardly violence with love and compassion for each other. A city that responds to hatred with faith and strength. Las Vegas strong. It's a slogan we're now seeing on billboards, marquees, and t-shirts. But behind that slogan is a true story of true strength. Story of a city growing, emerging, and becoming closer and more united. A deranged man with a rifle brought death and carnage and terror to Las Vegas. But today, Las Vegas stands stronger. Las Vegas stands unafraid. Las Vegas's true identity has been revealed, and it is one of compassion and one of heroism. It is my hope that we will honor the memory of those lost by holding on to the sense of unity and family that has emerged since October 1st. That we will, all of us, continue to be Las Vegas strong. Mr. President, may God bless the city of Las Vegas. state of Nevada, and may God bless the United States of America. And I yield back.